What you are about to see changed history forever, but no one wants to talk about it.
Welcome to Eternal Moments. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start.
Amid the chaos of the Tet Offensive in 1968, an American soldier becomes an unlikely hero. Amidst the bullets and explosions in the city of Hue, he carries 2 Vietnamese children to safety. The image shows a brutal contrast. War destroys, but human instinct protects. This moment has been immortalized as a symbol of hope amidst horror. In 1949, in the midst of the First Indochina War, Viet Minh soldiers celebrate a crucial victory against the French colonial power. Behind them, the burning ruins of the captured fort speak louder than any speech. The scene reflects the spirit of resistance, of a people determined to liberate themselves. It is a moment where the euphoria of victory mingles with the fire of destruction. December 1969, a group of Marines advances on patrol through the humid and stifling jungle of South Vietnam. Every step is fraught with tension, as guerrilla warfare could erupt at any corner. Their hardened faces show fatigue, but also unwavering discipline. The image captures the harshness of a war that seemed endless. June 1972, an exhausted Vietnamese family walks towards Saigon, seeking respite from the conflict. They carry the little they could salvage, while uncertainty weighs more than their belongings. Each look reflects fear, but also the hope of surviving another day. The photo becomes a testament to the deepest human cost of war. September 19, 1970, an American soldier appears with his young Vietnamese wife, a union forged amid the chaos of war. The image reflects a collision of worlds. The military uniform and the wedding dress represent 2 opposing realities. Between violence and uncertainty, this marriage symbolizes an attempt to hold on to love. It is an intimate portrait of humanity in a setting devastated by conflict. 2 South Vietnamese child soldiers, barely teenagers, share a cigarette while awaiting an imminent attack. The image, taken between 1965 and 1975, portrays the brutality of a war that consumed even children. Their faces, too young for weapons, display a maturity forced by violence. It is a brutal reminder of how war steals innocence before its time. April 30th, 1975, a North Vietnamese tank advances through the streets of Saigon as civilians watch in awe and fear. On that day, the capital fell and the Vietnam War came to an end after decades of bloodshed and destruction. The image depicts the clash between victors and silent witnesses of history. It was the beginning of a new era under communist rule. In 1954, after the historic Battle of Dien Bien Phu, defeated French soldiers walked exhausted toward a prisoner of war camp. Escorted by Vietnamese forces, their march symbolized the end of French colonial rule in Indochina. Their dejected faces contrast with the steadfastness of their captors. This scene marked a decisive turning point in Vietnam's struggle for independence. In 1973, during a brief truce in the Vietnam War, a journalist from the North met with a Marine from the South. Amid conversation and laughter, they took this photograph, a moment of humanity in the midst of conflict. The surprising thing is that they wouldn't cross paths again for another 45 years. The image captures the fleeting connection between enemies who had become witnesses to the same story. On April 30th, 1975, a Vietnamese vehicle stormed into the Saigon headquarters, symbolizing the end of 117 years of foreign domination. The scene reflects the collapse of the South Vietnamese regime and the triumph of a united country. Amid the rubble and chaos, one feels the euphoria of liberation. The photo captures a historic moment that closed a long chapter of occupation and conflict. In 1969, A soldier from the 25th Infantry Division takes a brief cigarette break amidst the relentless Vietnam conflict. The colorized image reveals a moment of humanity and exhaustion amid the constant tension. His gaze reflects war fatigue and the need for small moments of normalcy. It is a silent portrait of daily life on the front lines. On April 23, 1971, a Vietnam veteran threw his war medal at the Capitol in a gesture of fury and disillusionment. His act symbolized his rejection of a conflict that had marked his life and cost so many lives. The protest visualizes the disillusionment of those who fought and questioned the purpose of the war. The image became an icon of resistance and critical awareness against the Vietnam War. In 1979, during the Sino-Vietnamese War, a Vietnamese squad patrols the tense border with China. Every step is charged with alertness, as the rugged, mountainous terrain becomes a stage for confrontation. Their faces reflect discipline and determination in the face of a close and powerful enemy. The image captures the constant vigilance and spirit of national defense in times of conflict. April 1975. The fall of Saigon marked the end of the Vietnam War and the beginning of a new order. The Viet Cong imposed symbolic changes, cutting their hair and replacing Western clothing with local attire. The scene reflects the cultural and political transformation that would follow the communist victory. The image captures a moment of control, forced adaptation, and a clash of identities. In 1989, at the end of the Cambodian-Vietnamese War, Vietnamese soldiers bid farewell to Cambodian villagers after years of conflict. Their raised hands reflect respect and the tension of a farewell after so long. The image mixes relief and melancholy, showing humanity even in the military retreat. It is a moment of closure, where the war ends and reconstruction begins. In 1979, during the Sino-Vietnamese War, a Vietnamese soldier marches steadily through a small village near the border in Cao Bang. His stride reflects the discipline and tension of an area under constant threat. The stillness of the village contrasts with the imminence of conflict, creating an air of expectation. The image captures the combination of military routine and wartime vigilance. 1976. Following the end of the Vietnam War, the mangroves lie devastated by Agent Orange. The vegetation, once dense and vibrant, is now scorched and silent, a silent witness to chemical destruction. The image reflects the environmental and human impact that would last for decades. It is a reminder of how war not only destroys cities, but also nature itself. A photo found in a second-hand album shows an unknown young man during the Vietnam War. His direct and serene gaze contrasts with the chaos that surrounded him, revealing untold stories. The discovery seeks to return lost memories and faces to their families. The image captures an intimate and human moment in the midst of a historic conflict. April 1975. In the final days of the Vietnam War, a soldier from the South Vietnam stands firm in Saigon. A member of the 83rd Battalion, 33rd ARVN Ranger Group, his uniform reflects discipline and loyalty in a time of uncertainty. The tension on his face reflects the mixture of fear and duty in the face of the imminent fall of the city. The photo captures the dignity and resilience of those who faced the end of a devastating conflict. September 7, 1965. A family from South Vietnam crosses a river to escape a U.S. bombing raid. Their village, used as a base by the Viet Cong, was evacuated after warnings from the authorities. Each step reflects fear, urgency, and the instincts to survive in the midst of conflict. The image captures the human drama behind military strategies and life at war. 1965, Vietnam. An American soldier wears the handwritten phrase, "War is hell," on his helmet. More than a slogan, it's a silent cry of frustration and harsh reality. The image reflects the discontent and awareness of those who experienced the war firsthand. It's a reminder of the physical and emotional toll of a conflict that would mark an entire generation. 1971. A father, then a combatant and field medic, poses after a brutal night when the North attacked his fire support base. His face reflects exhaustion, tension, and the burden of saving lives under enemy fire. The photo captures the silent heroism of those who faced the war from the trench closest to danger. It is an intimate testimony to the human costs and everyday courage in Vietnam. 1968, Vietnam. Nicknamed Little Tiger after murdering 2 Viet Cong women, supposedly his mother and his teacher, his story blends horror and rumor. Philip Jones Griffith's image captures the brutality and complexity of war, where innocence and violence blur. His eyes reflect the burden of acts impossible to forget. It is a disturbing portrait of the psychological impact of conflict on young people. 1967, Vietnam. An American soldier curiously displays a huge jungle centipede. The image blends wonder and estrangement at the wildlife that coexisted with the war. Each creature was a reminder of natural dangers as well as combat. The photo captures a light and human moment amidst the relentless conflict. 1975. Babies orphaned by the Vietnam War are flown to the United States for adoption. Their innocent faces contrast with the tragedy that left them without a family. Its image reflects both the devastation of war and the hope for a new beginning. It is a poignant reminder of the human cost and the resilience that emerges after conflict. 1968, New York. Thousands of people gathered to show their support for the Vietnam War in a noisy, flag-waving crowd. The energy of the square reflects patriotism, conviction, and the polarization of American society. Amidst signs and banners, the demonstration displays the passion and beliefs of those who supported the military effort. It captures a moment of civic fervor amidst a country divided by conflict. 1968, Vietnam. Water was a silent and essential enemy in the war, always in excess or in short supply. At first, it was shipped from California, considered unsafe by locals, until it was treated with chlorine to make it drinkable. Many learned to use the natural source, adapting to the country's extreme conditions. Philip Jones Griffith's photo shows how an everyday resource became a vital challenge for soldiers and civilians. 1989, Phnom Penh. Vietnamese soldiers returned to their country after more than a decade in Cambodia, marking the end of the Cambodian-Vietnamese War. Their faces reflect relief, fatigue, and the nostalgia of years away from home. The image captures the mix of excitement and uncertainty upon returning to one's homeland after so long. It is a moment of closure and return after a prolonged conflict. 1969, Vietnam. An American soldier turns to narcotics, seeking to escape the daily stress and horror of combat. The image reveals the dark side of the war, where pressure and fear led to dangerous decisions. Their gestures reveal vulnerability and psychological strain. It is a stark testimony to how the conflict affected not only the body, but also the mind of those who experienced it. 1973, Stockholm. Police drag a demonstrator during a protest against the Vietnam War. The image captures the tension between citizens and authorities in the midst of social unrest. The faces and gestures reflect indignation, resistance, and the fight for one's own voice. It is a moment that symbolizes the global protest against a distant but deeply controversial conflict. 1968, Vietnam. A guerrilla from the National Liberation Front, Viet Cong, poses with determination, a symbol of female participation in the conflict. Her gaze reflects courage, discipline, and commitment to her cause. The image shows how the war transformed roles and challenged stereotypes in the midst of combat. It is a powerful portrait of resilience and determination in wartime. 1966, Vietnam. President Lyndon B. Johnson greets U.S. troops deployed in the country, seeking to show support and unity. The soldiers, between enthusiasm and exhaustion, greet their leader in a moment steeped in symbolism. The image reflects the political and military connection in the midst of war. It's a moment that captures the presidential presence amidst the conflict and the morale of the forces. 1970, Vietnam. A makeshift hospital receives wounded in the midst of the conflict, where every bed and corner serves to save lives under extreme conditions. Doctors and nurses work tirelessly, facing scarce resources and the urgency of war. The image reflects the humanity that persists amidst chaos. It is a testament to the sacrifice and silent dedication on the front lines of suffering. 1982, Joseph Ambrose, an 86-year-old World War I veteran, attends a parade at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. He wears his original doughboy uniform and holds the American flag that draped the coffin of his son, Clement, who fell in the Korean War. The image reflects generations united by the sacrifice and memory of those who fought. It is a moment filled with tribute, pride, and silent sorrow. 1967, Hanoi. Alexander Grothendieck, considered one of the most brilliant mathematicians of the 20th century, teaches at Hanoi University. His presence in Vietnam was also an act of protest against foreign intervention in the war. The image shows how academia and political consciousness can intertwine. It is a portrait of intellect and activism in a historical context of conflict. 1966, Vietnam. An American paratrooper appears exhausted after a clash in the jungle. His stained uniform and tired gaze reflect the intensity of combat and accumulated fatigue. The image captures the harshness of war from the individual soldier's perspective. It is a moment that conveys both courage and the human cost of the conflict. 1968, Saigon. A teenager in uniform as a South Vietnamese soldier faces the war too young to fully understand it. His face blends fear, determination, and the premature loss of innocence. The image reflects how the conflict dragged an entire generation into violence. It is a poignant portrait of youth stolen by war. 1960s, Vietnam. Helicopters transport American soldiers directly into combat zones, revolutionizing military mobility. The scene depicts the tension and dynamism of war, with machines zooming through the skies above dense jungles. Each flight represented both danger and crucial strategy. The image captures the technology and constant risk that defined the conflict. 1969, Washington, D.C. Young Americans watched intently as the draft lottery for Vietnam was drawn, a system that randomly decided who would be sent to war. Tension and nervousness mingle with a sense of injustice and fear. The image reflects how the war affected lives even before they set foot on the battlefield. It is a moment of national anxiety and decisions that would change destinies. October 1966, near the demilitarized zone. U.S. Marines take advantage of a lull in combat to eat their rations. Amidst the tension and constant danger, these routine moments become essential to maintaining morale. The image depicts the daily life of a soldier in the midst of war. It is a portrait of survival, camaraderie, and small respites in a relentless conflict. 1967, Vietnam. An M48 Patton gun tank peers intently through his sights, ready for action. Captured by Co. Rentmeester, the photo won the World Press Photo of the Year for its intensity and focus on the soldier's concentration. The image conveys the constant tension, precision, and danger on the front lines. It is an emblematic portrait of war where every decision could be a matter of life or death. April 1970, American actress Jane Fonda participates in FTA, Free the Army, a play that criticized the Vietnam War. Her presence combined fame and activism, conveying a direct political message to soldiers and the public. The image reflects the power of art as protest and social conscience. It is a moment where film, theater, and activism intertwine in the midst of an era of protest against the war. October 1966, near the demilitarized zone, U.S. Marines receive communion during a brief respite from combat. The scene reflects how faith and spirituality offered solace amidst the chaos and constant danger. Each gesture conveys hope and humanity amid the tension of war. The image captures a moment of contemplation and resilience on the front lines. 1968, Vietnam. Lo Man Hung, a child photographer, documents the horrors and everyday life of the war. Despite his youth, his camera captures stories that many adults would be unable to tell. The image reflects how the war affected even the youngest children, forcing them to take on extraordinary roles. It is a poignant testament to the courage and unique perspective of those who grew up amidst the conflict.
1960s, Vietnam. Members of a river patrol crew pose next to the hammer and sickle, a communist symbol, demonstrating their closeness to local forces or their presence in controlled areas. The image reflects the ideological complexity of the conflict and the interaction between soldiers and political symbols. Their gestures blend camaraderie and tacit propaganda. It is a moment that captures the political and symbolic dimension of the war on the ground. April 30th, 1975. Viet Cong soldiers relax after their victory in the Vietnam War while arresting enemy leaders. The image captures a moment of triumph and a transition of power after years of conflict. Between satisfaction and tension, one senses the closing of a historical chapter. It is a portrait of celebration, authority, and the end of a devastating war.